Hey, this is Dave, the Caregiver's Caregiver at caregiverdave.com, coming to you on the number one rated caregiver podcast on the internet, along with my lovely co-host, best-selling author, and former mayor of Grover Beach, California, Debbie Peterson. Say hello, Debbie.
Hello, Debbie.
And we have an especially exciting show planned for you today. Tonya Comer is the winner of the 2024 Nautilus Gold Book Award for Business and Leadership for her book, In High Heels on a Ladder, The 7 Power Tools for Designing Your Life. She's also been named one of the top 20 African-American interior designers in the United States. And as a visionary who is bringing design to life, Tonya writes, speaks, coaches, leads, designs, and loves. And when she isn't doing all of that, she lives life out loud as an adventure-seeking, rollercoaster-loving, jump-out-of-a-plane-first spirit. So, Tonya, so great to have you on the Caregiver Dave Show.
It's an absolute pleasure to be with you today, Dave and Debbie. I've been looking forward to it all day.
Let's talk about, how did you become a caregiver?
I have a very dear friend who is an elderly gentleman, and his wife passed away, as he had been the one in the relationship who had actually had chronic illness. Deeply compelled at that time to support him because he had a lack of family support at the time. And it was an incredible undertaking, to say the least. Quite a learning experience for me, for sure.
Well, welcome to the club.
Yes.
So what did you learn, Dorothy, from all of that?
Yes.
Steal a line from The Wizard of Oz.
Exactly. So what I learned is that I was completely unprepared to be someone's caregiver.
Aren't we all?
And,
So this was not on your resume. You didn't sign up for it. You were kind of drafted into it, and welcome.
I volunteered. And
you volunteered. Wow.
Yes, volunteered, thinking,
but you didn't know what you were getting yourself into.
I didn't know what I was getting myself into. And I have certain skills, gifts, and talents that I utilized very effectively and contributed greatly to his life, George's life.
What are some of those skills, by the way? It's good to know what skills a caregiver needs.
Yes. So some of the skills is I have pretty good negotiation skills with other people.
Yeah.
Another skill I have is I'm pretty knowledgeable about health. My ex-husband worked in the medical profession, so I learned a lot. I was able to have intelligent and sensitive conversations between the medical professionals and balancing George's needs. So those were two skills that came in handy. Sure. Quite a bit. And then, the other thing that I learned during this time, Dave and Debbie, is that the reason why I was unprepared, while I had these skills that did work and they served and they contributed significantly to his experience, I was not in alignment with myself while I was serving in this capacity.
What does that mean?
So I burnt out quickly. I was not in alignment, and we're going to talk about, I think we're going to talk a little bit more as I share part of my journey, but I was completely serving to prove something to myself, to George, to the doctors. In the end, I was serving without with a sense of I'm going to give something to someone, but not really present to the impact that had on me. And I think many caregivers fall into this category of serving for a result, not necessarily serving in alignment with what is the best for oneself.
It sounds like you're saying you didn't have the proper motives.
It wasn't necessarily a motive. Maybe it's more about intention, And I think a lot of us, we serve for a particular intention, not just me, a lot of people. Someone's serving because they want to save their loved one's life. Someone is serving because they are afraid of what they lose if the loved one dies. Someone serving, we have these intentions and they're not always conscious in the forefront of our mind. Sometimes we don't realize why we're serving. We're just serving, and it's when we're out of alignment that we burn out, we feel stressed, we feel disconnected from our loved ones, from others. And that's a significant part of the journey, I think, to feeling like you're whole inside your service.
That's a great insight. I never heard it put that way before. Debbie, you got a question?
Yeah, one of our previous guests on the show talked about solving the wrong problem, and it sounds a little bit like you're saying sometimes we're solving the wrong problem, and so I'm curious about a couple of things. How long were you a caregiver for, and is there more that you learned while you were doing that?
Yeah, I was a caregiver for 3 years to George. And I think the biggest thing that I learned is how to serve fully from a full cup, wholly from a full cup. If one can master that, I think one can master almost anything.
By the way, congratulations on your book. What inspired you to create this book with a great title and the 7 power tools?
Yes. So this sort of will help to illustrate a little bit more what I'm sharing about being out of alignment.
Yeah.
So I'm going to share a little bit about my backstory so that this illuminates this a little bit.
Thank you.
I was born homeless. My mother gave birth to me and did not have a place to take me home to.
Wow.
She did not have a home to take me to. And eventually she was crying on a park bench one day, and a woman, I call her an angel, showed up at my mom's side and guided my mother to the Housing Authority of Pittsburgh, which would find placement for us in a government housing project. I grew up in the government housing project with my single mother. I don't know my father. I experienced colorism, which is my fair skin did not fit in with the darker skinned Black folks in my community. And I was bullied as a child. And there was a specific incident in 3rd grade where I declared that I didn't matter. I was in it was a bullying incident in the cafeteria. I can still smell the cafeteria. I can still feel the temperature of the cafeteria. I can still feel the energy of the cafeteria. I can hear the girls' voices. I can hear the chatter. And this bullying incident is lodged in my brain as a trauma.
And it's from other girls or guys too?
From other girls. Yeah, the popular
girls can be so mean.
And so this bullying incident becomes the catalyst for who I define I am and am not in the world, Dave. And so I defined I don't matter. So this is my place of belonging in the world as I see myself. All human beings, I believe most human beings have a definition of ourselves relative to who we believe we are and are not in the world that's attached to a moment of shame we experience as a child. Okay? And so as I'm living my life, this little girl who was homeless, bullied, fatherless, abused, is now walking through life, has found her way to be compelled to have success. Okay? But at the top of my career, Dave and Debbie, I was named one of the top 20 African-American interior designers, and I didn't believe I was deserving of that success. I felt I didn't matter. I felt I was unimportant. I felt unworthy of that honor, and I sabotaged myself. My marriage went kaput. My health went sideways. I was diagnosed with an illness that was a misdiagnosis of an illness that caused me about a year of resolution. I was $250,000 in credit card debt, and I was $750,000 in debt in my business, and had maxed out my credit cards to stay afloat. So this was rock bottom for me.
Yeah.
And as I rebuilt my life, I learned that shame moment that I experienced, this decision I made about where I belong and where I don't, the self-doubt that I was carrying, the sabotage that I had experienced, the burnout that I was living with, the self-limiting beliefs that I was holding on to. I learned all of this was absolutely something that first had me rebuild my life because I learned it. But it was way too good to keep to myself, Dave and Debbie. I had to share it with other people. And so I published what I had learned into a framework that I call the 7 power tools, and that this became the basis for my book and the gift that I want to give out to the world in my mission to help cause a ripple effect around the globe for people to go on their own healing journeys and find their path through this maze of stuff that we go through as human beings, starting at childhood, so that we can come out on the other side, living authentically, living wholly, serving from a full cup, and do the thing we're meant to do on the planet. And that's now my mission, Dave and Debbie.
Wow.
So somehow you went, while you were caregiving, it sounds like you had almost a similar experience, although I don't know the timing of how all of this evolved. But so while you were caregiving, you went from survival to thriving, because you were rock bottom at one point, and then you burnt out caregiving. So what happened next? How does it all fit together?
Oh, it's so perfect. Exactly. So I had started caregiving as I was in the middle of this rebound in my own personal life. So I was about 3 years on the rebound side of rebuilding my life from this fall. And I took on this thing, I'm armored with all this great knowledge and these skills, and I'm going to go out and I'm going to serve Mr. Beach, and I'm going to give Mr. George, and I'm going to give him everything he needs so that this is a great experience for him. And there wasn't anything that I thought at the time was inauthentic about that. It was purely Tonya coming from her heart, wanting to serve. What I recognized, as I mentioned, that was out of alignment for me. And so let's paint a bigger picture as it relates to caregivers. I believe the reason that we experience burnout as caregivers is because we are not serving from our authenticity. We are doing the things that we must do just to survive the day. We're not serving with a true, authentic self that is full, that is whole, that has a full cup. And so we end up running on empty, not having the full cup, and ultimately we find ourselves experiencing stress and burnout.
So what
Does
is
that make sense?
Yes, and we know what stress is. Everybody has stress.
Yeah.
What are the common signs that we are in danger or already past that point of burnout? I mean, what is burnout if you were to define it, so, in case someone doesn't know what it means or never even heard the word,
Yeah. Great. Thank you for the question. We feel disconnected from ourselves. We may feel disconnected from others. We may feel fatigue, emotional, physical, mental fatigue. We may actually feel ill or even become ill ourselves. We may have emotional outbursts. We may suppress ourselves emotionally. And we also, there are 2 really important things that I think show up inside this whole idea of stress and burnout. First is how we are driven by our fears. The fear of losing our loved one, the fear of losing memories, the fear of losing common connections or common experiences, the fear of losing some sort of physical or tangible thing that we've built with our loved one, or we created with our loved one, or that we dreamed of with our loved one. So we have these fears that become uncontrollable. And then the other thing is the guilt. We question the roles we play, the actions we've taken, all of this. We question it past and we question it present. And so what burnout is this experience of complete sense of out of control, being out of control in our lives.
Sounds good.
So how do you talked a little bit about the story you told yourself, and how do you then distinguish your perception of yourself from reality, or perception of anything from what's real?
Yeah. Yes. So thank you for that. So first of all, I think, Debbie, we must first pay attention to what we think what we feel, and most importantly, what we complain about. Because it is a key indication as to where you used the word motive was earlier, Dave, but where our lack of alignment is showing up for us. These are clues to where we're feeling depleted. These are clues to where we might be operating from depletion rather than devotion, where we may be operating out of alignment with what is truly our authentic self versus serving from that full cup. And so you mentioned, Debbie, my origin story in which I shared, I don't matter. Mm-hmm. Well, I think it would be really helpful to offer this gift to your listeners because the origin story has many shades. It looked to me, my sense of not belonging in the world, because that's what occurred for me. I didn't belong in the world in such that I felt I didn't matter. Someone else might have a trigger when they're a young person. They feel like they are unlovable. Another person may feel like they are unwanted, or they may be they will be abandoned. Another person may feel that they're invisible. Someone else may feel powerless. Another person may feel like they are not enough. These are common, what I call foundational beliefs, Dave and Debbie. And so these common foundational beliefs are now living in our experience of life. And
is that where the sabotage comes from?
That's where the sabotage. That's exactly right, Dave. That's where the sabotage comes from.
So that's why we always seem to sabotage ourselves. Things don't always work out, and we don't always just do it. Sometimes the environment does it to us, but having that subconscious unworthiness kind of is like a magnet to life of bad luck. Yes?
That's the way it occurs to us as bad luck. That's the way it occurs to us.
Yeah, they say if it wasn't for bad luck, you wouldn't have any luck at all.
So going back to the original question, if we're doing that, how do we get from what we're telling ourselves to reality?
Absolutely. Yeah. Back? Yes. Thank you. So thank you for bringing us back full circle. So the way we get there is by first recognizing what we're thinking and observing if what we're thinking is really what's truly happening there. I believe that the biggest thing that occurs when we're out of alignment is we're living in this side of ourselves that's inside this fear, stress, burnout. And the complaints that we have, the conversations that we have in our head, they all correlate back to our sense of belonging or need to belong. So an example, Debbie, might be, let's say you're frustrated that the service you've used to order meals for your caregiver is frequently late. They just do not deliver the meals when they're supposed to be delivered. And you're just frustrated with it.
That's what we're complaining about. That's going back to the suggestion. Look at what you complain about. Okay.
Exactly. So you look at the complaint you have, and the complaint is they are always late. They're always late. It must be that then there's this conversation that sort of shifts it to your own personal relationship to them being late. And that personal relationship is, in my case, I would do something like this. They're always late, but I clearly do not matter. Mm-hmm. And it seems like a huge leap, but in my brain, that's what's happening. I do not matter because these people are late. They're showing up late because I'm not important enough for them to get to me on time and deliver the meals. They said 3:00. The meal isn't here at 3:00. So I'm not important enough for them to show up to deliver the meal to me.
You're taking it personal.
Taking it very personally. And that's where the out of alignment is. So the person who feels unlovable, I'm not loved. because it seems trite. And I chose a really simple example to illustrate this point because it happens in the mundane and it happens in the bigger experiences where we attach a personal meaning, personal sense of belonging, a personal sense of lack of belonging on situations that exacerbate the stress. It exacerbates it. Mm-hmm. And so if I feel unlovable or I feel unwanted, I feel invisible, I feel powerless, I feel like I am not enough. So now I'm dealing with the stresses that's going on in this environment with my caregiver. If I'm feeling unwanted, unlovable, I don't matter, invisible, powerless, I'm going to obviously carry that stress in a different way. Mm. And that makes me feel less effective as a caregiver. Maybe. It may make me feel weak or tired or exhausted or fatigued. Does that make sense? Can you see that?
Yes. And how do you get there then from that reaction? Once you've recognized it, how do you shift into a different automatic response?
Yeah, so the shift to a different automatic response is first recognizing that is it's really great to see it in your complaints, because it's an easy place to recognize where what conversations you're having. If you're unaware of this what I call the shame originating story. So recognize what you're complaining about, what you're thinking about, what you're feeling, and what you're projecting. And then when you know what that is, you can actually ask the question, what is really happening here? What's really happening here? The meal service just showed up late. And they've done it last week and the week before and the week before and the week before. But that doesn't mean anything about you.
Well, in the next 5 minutes, because time is going very quickly, this is almost over, let's talk about wrapping this up and what we can take away from this wonderful interview.
Question. So what I would love to give your audience is to make sure that they understand that there is, and it is not in any way, shape, or form intended to be something that I want us to carry as a flaw or a weakness or something we're doing wrong. That is not my intention. My intention is to illuminate what happens when we assume such responsibility, how there can be a disconnect between what we're actually doing and how we want to serve and what's actually going on for us personally.
Well, fear is a big topic. I know everybody seems to have fear about everything. Why don't you talk about that in the last few minutes and how we can eliminate fear from our lives? Because that would solve like 90% of our problems and our complaints, wouldn't it?
It would. And I don't know that we can ever eliminate fear. What I do believe we can do, though, Dave, is become self-aware. And when we're self-aware, we can have power over the fear. And so my whole journey, my entire purpose at this point in my life as a life coach, as a woman who is on a mission to serve people around the world so that they can own their truth and live authentic lives, my entire purpose is to have us become self-aware. We will serve differently. We will walk differently. We will lead differently. We will own differently. And we will change the experience for others around us by causing this ripple of what I call of love. We'll cause a ripple of love that can change the world. And it's purely by being self-aware, recognizing the stories the narratives we've been living our lives by, taking ownership for them, and then causing a transformation in our own.
Yeah. Before the show, we were talking about the different things that you and I have both done, like jump out of an airplane. I went into a shark tank with sharks that, exercises to tell you that there really isn't anything to be afraid of. I mean, the cage is protecting me from the sharks. The parachute's protecting me from falling flat on my face and so on. What can we do to to understand that, or maybe have our own exercises of fear. Maybe they can do things that they know they're afraid of and get over that fear and just realize. You have any practical suggestions?
Yeah. A practical suggestion. I love what you said, that we really are protected in more ways than we think. And we're always in control, even when we think we're not. It is our human nature to be in control. It's our human nature. And so I love what you said there. Practically, I really am going to go back to the most practical thing is to have self-awareness.
Mm-hmm. And our body protects us with the fight or flight mechanism that goes on. Hey, you either have to face this, fight your way out, or run away.
Yeah. Now, I agree with you there, but that can also serve negatively as well.
Right.
It really can. And so, even the mechanisms that are naturally built for us to survive, physically survive in the world, emotionally can be a detriment if they're not used in alignment with who we are, what circumstance we're in, what our intentions are. There can be a misalignment.
There's so much to talk about. We can go on for another hour.
I know.
Time is our enemy. And so how can people get a hold of you if they want to learn more about this or read your book and just become more enlightened about this?
Oh my gosh. Thank you for that question. First, here's a copy of my book.
Oh, I love it.
And thanks. And my book is sold anywhere books are sold. Obviously, Amazon, Barnes and Noble. You can find it on Goodreads. You can find it
Target, Walmart, all those places.
Target and Walmart. And it is distributed globally. I got an email from someone in London who read my book, and she was just blown away.
Did you do Audible? Is it Audible yet?
We are still recording the Audibles.
Yeah, me too.
We're still working on the audiobook.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, great. And you have a website?
I do. TonyaComer.com.
Tonya. Okay.
You got it.
Debbie, how do people get a hold of you and find out who the heck is Mayor Debbie?
Well, MayorDebbie.com is one good way. And then also my books are my Integrity 101 series. Debbie Peterson is available on Amazon. So if you just search those things, you'll find me.
And my number one best-selling book, It's Your Life Too, How to Survive and Thrive as a Caregiver, is available wherever books are sold and also on my free membership website, caregiverdave.com. And my Facebook page, 34,000 followers, Caregiver Dave, and we have lots of tools, resources, videos, this radio show, and much, much more. Big thank you to all my listeners and my guests and my co-hosts. Thank you guys. The guests all over the world tuning in every Wednesday and making us the number one caregiver podcast on the internet. So until next week, same time, same channel, may God richly bless you all. Bye-bye. Dave Nasani, the Caregiver's Caregiver, has just released his 6th book entitled It's My Life Too, Thrive to Stay Alive as a Caregiver. It was specifically written for caregivers who know they should be putting their needs first, but just don't know how. Dave is the sole caregiver to his wife, Charlene, since 1996. He knows firsthand what caregivers are going through because he is one. He now speaks all across the country, offering caregivers his amazing caregiver support package. Even the airlines tell us that in the event of an emergency, to put your oxygen mask on first before you help your child with their mask. They know that those who don't heed their advice often black out, thus becoming unable to help either themselves or their child. And caregivers are exactly the same way. It's My Life Too, Thrive and Stay Alive as a Caregiver will help caregivers who are neglecting their sleep, diet, and social life and learn to put their needs first. Pick up your copy today or buy one for your special caregiver. On sale everywhere and at caregiverdave.com.
Sometimes it feels like the sun will never rise, like the birds will never sing.